Hi everyone, Jasmine here, and I'm here for our January 2024 blogging Q&A. Yay! So it's been a while since I've seen you guys. I know the last time I did a blog Q&A, it was mid-December, just to do it before the holidays. So I know it's been a little bit of time since I've seen you guys. So hi, Happy New Year. So I want to start off by introducing myself like I typically do. Hi, I'm Jasmine. I have been blogging since 2010. Oh my goodness, a long time. I've been blogging since 2010. I currently have two blogs. My first, which is Miss Millennium Magazine, that's when I started back in 2010. And my second is my current blog that I have right now that is called Blogging Money Life. In Blogging Money Life, I like to talk more about blogging in particular, and that's the YouTube channel that you're watching this on right now. So welcome. I appreciate you being here. Hi, I see you, how to and reviews. Glad you're here. So what I typically do during these is I like to answer your questions. Any questions you have regarding blogging, nothing is off topic. And if I can answer it, I will. And if I can't, I'll let you know that too and direct you to the best resource that I know of to help you with whatever blogging issues you may have. Now, there tends to be a lot of downtime in these calls because I know some of you may not have any questions right now, or you're thinking of some things, or I know a lot of people like to come and just hear what other people ask. So during that time, what I like to do is come with a topic. So my topic today that I wanted to talk with you guys about is just preparing your blog for the new year. And there are a number of things that I think all bloggers who want to be successful should be doing with their blog when you begin a new year. And these are things I think it's good, just business practices. Some things are good just for your own motivation. And other things are just good because you want your blog to grow and you want to make sure that you're focusing on the right things. So recalibrating so that you know what to focus on and how to have the best year possible for your blog. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Uh-oh, I think I have a little bit of an internet issue here. One moment, let me see if I can close some things so that we don't have any issues here. 1 second. Okay, I think that may have helped. Can you guys hear me okay? Let me know. So with that being said, I like to jump right on in. If you guys have questions about anything, it can be related to what I'm talking about today. It can be related to something else completely. Feel free to post them in the chat. I'll pull them up so I can see them. We can all see the question. I'll answer it for you. All right. Let's talk about January tasks for your blog because this is an important thing. We're in January, actually. Tomorrow's February, but I'll start with one of my first tips that's kind of related to the fact that we're at the end of January, and if you haven't started doing some of these things for your blog, that is no big deal. My first tip would be do not feel obligated to do all of your planning for your blog in January. And if you don't do all your planning for your blog in January, it doesn't make you a failure. It doesn't mean that you're not prepared. There's a lot of things to do. So if you don't get to it all in January, that's perfectly fine. Just plan for success. One of my blog mentors, her name is Kate McKibben. And one thing I love about Kate is she is definitely a plan first, measure twice, cut once type of gal. So this is a very important time, at least for her when it comes to her business, because she doesn't really specify in like blogging, but more so like content creation realm. But what I love about her is she has calculators, she has various Excel sheets, she has brainstorming things that she does. Like she has a number of different things that she's doing in January to make sure she's successful for the year. And what I noticed about some of her templates that she creates, she doesn't plan on doing like any of her hardcore like big ideas or big changes for her business until like March. So if it takes you the first quarter to figure out what you want to do for the year, that is perfectly fine. Do not feel rushed. do not feel like a failure if you need to take a little bit more time. So, all right, I see we have our first question. I'm going to jump into that really quick before we get into my other tips for January. How to reviews. I am taking your course. So far, learning a lot, but finding I have a lot to do. One question I have is, how do you organize your menu for your blog? Mine is getting pretty long. Oh, this is a good question. So I remember my first design for my blog, my menu was pretty long too. Like you would scroll over the top and then you would go to one of the categories and it'd be like down to the bottom of the page menu, like so many different items. But what I found that has been helpful is keep it simple. When it comes to your menu, I used to have a lot of different categories. And then what I ran into is it was hard to figure out what category an article should go under, because it can go under 5 different categories. And then when it's under 5 different categories, I'm pretty much creating a new page every time I'm assigning my article to that category, because you have to see my article on this category page, and then you see my article on this category page. And depending on how many articles you have on a certain category page, let's say you have 6. By the time you get to article 7, now that your blog is creating another page just on the category pages so that you can get that article on there, even though your article exists on a different category page. All of that to say, keep it simple. I think about user experience. What I find is if you give people too many choices on your homepage, a lot of times they won't choose anything. So I would choose maybe 3 to 5 main categories, like on your menu for your blog. And under those 3 to 5, maybe have, I don't know, 3 to 5 subcategories. And even that may be a bit much. There's a really good worksheet that I use on a course called Making Sense of Affiliate Marketing. And you're like, well, this doesn't have anything to do with affiliate marketing, but it does, because if you're not doing affiliate marketing from an SEO perspective, you are missing a big, important part of affiliate marketing. And Michelle, what she uses is pretty much a map to say, what are my top 3 categories? What are the categories under those categories? And then for those categories, what type of content will I create for each of those categories? And if you have a lot of categories right now, I would ask yourself, can this fit into something else? Can I make it so that this is a little listed? And if the answer is yes, do it. It'll make it easier for people to find your content. You're not making as many, making more clicks for people to reach it, to reach your content. And overall, I think it's easier for you too, not having to decide, well, does it go into this category or this category? So yeah, keep it simple. I think a good example of how I set my categories for my blog, Blogging Money Life, is probably a nice one to follow. Miss Millennia, I mean, we've gone through quite a few changes in the past now where I've gotten rid of different categories, but yeah, I'll give you a link to my blog, Blogging Money Life, and just take a look. I feel like mine is probably pushing it a little bit in regard to almost having too many categories. But yeah, if you find that you need more, then ask yourself, are you niche down enough for your blog? And I know this is going to be hard for lifestyle blogs because we blog about everything under the sun, right? But even with Miss Millennia, I was able to break it down into 4 main categories, as you can see on my homepage as well. So I hope that helps. Oh, there you go. So I only have 5 to 6 categories, but within the categories, the topics in them are getting on. So use subcategories for those. You typically don't want to do a subcategory, if you know what I mean. So I don't want to have to scroll and see the little pop-down menu and then have to click on another pop-down. It's not a good user experience. So you don't want to do any subs after that second subcategory, if that's what you're asking. And for the subcategories, yes, I would say top 3 to 5 for each one, if that. All right, hopefully that helped. I hope it was helpful. I'll give you, I mean, if you're interested in Michelle's course, it's a really good course. And she breaks down like really organizing your categories in a way that's good for SEO. and also not overwhelming. It's a good user experience. So I'll grab that here just so you have it if you're interested. I still like, she made this course years ago. It's one of the first courses I bought actually when it came to like blogging, and it's still relevant. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, it's still pretty relevant, I think, at least. Okay. What else? All right, so going back into my topic while I am pulling up this course. One of the first thing I talked about is so the first thing I talked about is not feeling guilty if you don't have it all together in January. It's not that big of a deal. And honestly, what matters most is making sure you have a good plan in place before you start executing on a bunch of new things or getting squirrel brain and saying, well, I was going to focus on affiliate marketing, but now I got bored with that. So now I'm going to move over to something else and just not really having a full plan. So we talked about that in regard to making sure you're planning. And if you don't figure out in January, that's okay. I'm probably going to do the same thing and not really start executing on some of the big things that I want to change with my blogging business until March. I know that's not an option for everyone, but for me, I'm just going to keep the status quo. I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing until I have my plan laid out. Not because I don't want to, start seeing that success with it, but I want to make sure that I'm executing on some of these things with intention. So the next tip I will give in regard to making sure that your blog is good for January, if you hired anyone for 2023, meaning someone in the United States, let's say, for example, I have my sister. I typically pay her to do a few things for me for my blog for 2023. So you want to make sure that you send over your 1099s before January 31st or by January 31st. So that's something, if you haven't done it already, make sure you do it. If you use a freelancer, like someone on Upwork or someone on Fiverr, you don't have to file 1099s for them because they get that through the platforms that they're using. But if it's someone that you outsource on your own and they live in the United States, you do have to file a 1099. Now, if this sounds intimidating, well, I'll take that back. You only have to file a 1099 if you paid them more than $600 last year. So if it was something you paid them $50 or $100 to do, you don't have to, they technically don't have to file any taxes for the amount of money that you sent them. But if you pay them more than $600 last year, you do have to file a 1099 for them if they're considered like a freelancer. It's not as intimidating as it sounds. I use a website called 1099 Online. And if you haven't done this yet, you have to do it today. I'm not an affiliate for them whatsoever, but they're just so easy. And look, they have it here where you can start filing for 55 cents a form. So it's usually just a few dollars it costs me to file my 1099 for my people who help me with different things on my blog. So that's something you have to do in January if you have anyone working on it. And I mean anyone who you outsource, whether it be someone, I don't know, anyone you're paying on PayPal that lives in the United States, or PayPal, or just paying out of your own pocket, you have to file a 1099. And you have to have the 1099, you have to have their social security number, you have to have their physical address, and you have to have how much money you paid them that year. So whatever you're using to pay, you should be able to look over your filing and pull that information up. So that's something you absolutely have to do in January. Another thing I like to do in January is look back at the previous year to see how I did. Now, this is what's funny about this task, because I always feel like I have an assumption about how I did for some things, and I get clarity on how I actually did when I go through my numbers. And when I say how I actually did, I talk about, going through how many social media followers did you grow this year? What months did you see the most growth on your blog for your social media? Same thing for your website. Like, how much traffic did you get on your website this year? which month was your best month, and start coming up with some hypotheses as to why that was. Let's say, for example, you have a health and fitness blog. Well, your best month was January last year. And seeing as your health and fitness blog, that's probably because a lot of people are doing New Year's resolutions in January. And that's when they're looking for the content that you're creating. So you want to look for things like that, seasonality. And if you've been blogging for a little while, compare some previous year's data as well. Was there the traffic that you were seeing similar to what you saw last year? Was there any anomalies this year compared to last year or the years before that? So just looking over your website and your social media data is a really good practice, just so you can see where did you do well and where could you do some improvements. The same thing goes for your finances. And I look at that a little bit separately compared to my other data on my site in regards to like, well, before I go into the finances, I want to talk about the data I do look at in January. I look at my social media growth. I look at my website growth. I look at my email subscriber growth. I also look at, I'm trying to think, email subscribers, website. I'm thinking about my report that I go through. And I think those are the main things. Yes, those are all of the KPIs I typically look at for just not including finances. And there's a number of different things I'm looking at for those. For example, website, I'm looking at my unique followers, my unique subscribers. I'm looking at page views. I'm looking at clicks that people have clicked on. I'm looking at my most popular articles. And I'm comparing all this data to data from the year before, which should be fairly easy to do if you use Google Analytics for your website. For email, whatever email provider you use, whether that be like ConvertKit or MailerLite, they should have all this data for you to see how many email subscribers did you get? How many emails did you send out? What has been your open rate for the year? Do you have a month where, it's better than others? Do you see a correlation with how many emails you send and how many opens you get or how many click-throughs you get? All that stuff is relevant when it comes to your overall KPIs that you're sending. Another detail I look at when it comes to social media, not just followers, I'm looking at how much content I shared on social media. Was there a month where I shared more content than usual? Is there a correlation between me getting more leads to my email subscribers and a month where I got more social media followers or more clicks on my social media posts than usual? So you have to look at all these different things, but make sure you're keeping in mind, how do these different data points relate to one another? Was there a month where you saw a huge spike in traffic and social media followers and email subscribers? What did you do that month? What changed? And just keep notes of some of these things that you see so that you can use it to plan out for your next year. Because if you're just planning on, oh, I want to do this thing this year, but you haven't looked at your data to see what the best route is for, then you are missing a big opportunity for growth, a really big opportunity. So I talked about KPIs for your website that aren't related to financial KPIs. You want to do this for the finance side too. I have two different reports, one for my typical KPIs and the other for financial KPIs, because this is going to it's going to affect what you work on, obviously. So think about the ways I make money with my blog. I have sponsored posts. I have affiliate marketing. I have advertising. I think that's, and then I have my products that I sell. So those are the 4 ways that I bring in income with my blog. And I like to look it over and see which of those elements have brought in the most income for me. So what I like to do is I go one by one. I do the same thing that I just explained to you in regard to your other KPIs. Oh, here's a good question from How to Reviews. What is KPI? My bad. I hate it when people talk jargon and don't explain what the heck they're talking about. So thank you for asking me. A KPI is a key indicator. And, KPIs range for everyone in regard to what they think is a good KPI. So when I say KPI, I mean, one KPI you could look at could be page views. Another KPI could be email subscribers. And these are what you're looking at to say, am I doing good in my business or not? So they're just metrics you look at to see how your business is doing. Good question. I appreciate you asking that. Okay, so going on to other KPIs in regards to finances, I say look at the 4 ways you bring in income. I mean, the 4 ways, I'm talking about the 4 ways I bring in income. And I do the same thing where I look at, okay, how did I do over the year? Was there a month that I did better than the others? If so, what did I do in that month that was different? So I can take what worked and do it again for this year. I'll give you an example of that. I had one month where I did really well with affiliates. And it, like, this month just blew all the other months out of the water by thousands of dollars. And what I did differently that month is I spent a considerable amount of time doing research on an affiliate that I thought was good, affiliate product that I actually used and wrote a review for. And then I did some keyword research on that affiliate, got the right keywords, put those keywords in, spent a considerable amount of time taking pictures of the product, as well as writing the content, reviewing it, having someone else look it over, and then getting it published. Now, that might sound like a lot of work for a single affiliate article. I can tell you that article brought in about $17,000 for me, just that one piece of content. And while I did spend a good amount of time on that one article, it was worth it because it's still bringing in money for me and I don't have to do anything with it. So it's good to look at those things. And I know that if I'm going to put some time and effort into my affiliate strategy, I need to do that at least once a month. I need to find one article that I'm going to do a good affiliate post for. I'm going to do a good review. I'm going to take pictures. I'm going to talk about my personal experiences. I'm going to do keyword research. I'm going to do all of those things. And then after it gets published, I'm going to share it everywhere. I'm going to share it on Pinterest. I'm going to share it on my social media platforms. I'm going to make sure that I'm keeping up with my keywords. If there are any new keywords I can add to the article, I'm going to update it. So though all those things are very important when it comes to just affiliate income. And, you know, this one thing I look at when it comes to was it a success or not? Should I continue to do this? Should I do this more often? Should I stop doing it? The other thing I would say is look at what didn't work. So if you aren't doing this, you should do it for this year. Keep track of any new things that you do. Make a note of, in January, I decided I was going to do this, try this new thing. And what's important about this is so that you can go back to your data, and when you're looking through it at the end of the year, and you're saying, what happened in January? What was I doing that I got all these followers? I don't remember what I did. You can go back to that document and say, oh, this is what I did. So what I do is I have a goal sheet. And what I do is I label it by quarter. So I say Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. And I list out all my goals for the year. And then I break it down quarter by quarter. And I meet with my besties once a quarter, and we talk about our goals. Then we say, okay, here's all the goals I said I was going to do. Did I actually do them? And then I start taking notes on what I actually did. And what happens is I have a record now. I have a record for the entire year of everything that I did with my blog. And I have that up when I'm going through my KPIs and my numbers and all my stats for the year. So I can see what was I doing that resulted in this thing that happened. So that's another good thing to make sure you're doing on top of reviewing your KPIs, but also putting together a goal document. So let's get into that. Let's talk about what that goal document should look like. This is something I will admit I have not done a good job of in the last few years. The last time I did this was in 2020. And I told my blogging besties, like, okay, it's time. Like, I need to do this again. And they agree, like, it's time to get out of the funk that was 2020 and get back to being intentional. 2020 was my last great year of my blog. And I had a lot of breakthroughs and successes because I planned for those breakthroughs and successes. And so that part is really important. So I did that this year. I kind of laid it out to you already what I did for my goal sheet. I said, here are the big things I want to focus on this year. And I could say, like, I want to bring in more income with my blog. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then after you break those things down, you have to put them into tasks. Like, what do I have to do to get more of this? And then I put those things into tasks. And I don't go into the quarters yet as far as what I'm going to work on outside of Q1, because I have a good idea of what I'm going to do for Q1. It's mostly going to be planning and trying stuff out. And then I won't, get into really executing things until Q2, aka March. Oh wait, no, March, yeah, or April. So Q2 is when I really start to execute. So after I write down the things that I want to do, I go back in my data, my KPIs for my website and my KPIs for my finances, and I look at what worked, what didn't. There may be some things I want to cut out completely. For example, one year I said I'm cutting out Instagram. Like, I spent a lot of time and money on Instagram. I've grown my Instagram account significantly, but my Instagram account is not resulting in me getting more income. So I'm going to put my energy and effort into something that is going to bring in more income for me, because I was spending so much effort, energy in Instagram. It just wasn't, it didn't make up. I was spending like 8% of my time on Instagram and only making a 20% of my revenue type of situation, the golden rule. So look at things like that. Are there things where you felt like you weren't spending a whole lot of time, but you were making a lot of money with it? Maybe it's time to spend some more time on those things. And sometimes the answer is not just getting rid of something or just stop doing something, cold turkey. It could be finding a way to put some of these things on autopilot so that you can focus on some of the other things. For example, one thing I know for a fact I'm putting on autopilot this year is editing content, because that is where a lot of my time is being sucked these days. So I hired someone to edit content for me. And now that's something that gives me more time to focus on some of the other things that can bring in more income from my blog. So I said a lot here. I want to start and just give you a recap of what I talked about so far. The first is, don't feel guilty if you don't get all your planning done for the year in January. I know it's the last day of January. You still have time. The second thing I talked about in regard to making sure that you get your January things together is taxes. So if you hired anyone that wasn't through like Fiverr or Upwork that lives in the United States, you have to file a 1099 for them online. You can do that today with 1099 online. You can't mail it to them at this point, but you can send it to them digitally. And that's only if they make more than $600. So that's something you should do in January. Another thing you want to do is review your KPIs. And I talked about this for quite a bit of time because it's KPIs for your website, thinking about website traffic, email subscribers, social media growth. All of those things are important to look at for the entire year and month over month. And then comparing it to previous year's data. And this gives you an idea of how did you actually do. One thing I will say about the KPI part too is there's been some times I've been like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do this anymore because I don't think it brought in that much money for me. And then I find out that that thing actually did bring in a lot of income for me. So maybe I should spend a little bit more time on it instead of just, not doing it. So, looking at your data does bring some clarity to things. So you have another question from how to and reviews. Let's get to that. So, whoops. Also, regarding the course, when is it a good time to reach out to sponsors? Should I wait until my site is totally together? Yes and no. So you don't have, by totally together, you don't have to have a certain amount of followers on your social media or a certain amount of traffic on your website before you start reaching out to sponsors. In the course, I know I have a section where I talk about getting your blogging foundation together, like having these things together before you start pitching. And that means like having certain pages on your website. I can't think of all of them on the top of my head right now, but making sure you have certain pages on your website. For example, people should be able to contact you. You should have a work with me page so people have an idea of like what you do, what type of topics you talk about. And then a place where they can request your media kit. You want to make sure that you're publishing content on a regular basis, and regular can mean whatever. It can mean, publishing an article every other Tuesday, or, every day of the week, whatever that is. So long as you're consistent, that part is very, very important, because that's how, a lot of times how sponsors know that your blog is alive and they can reach out to you. A lot of blogs don't last that long. So that's an important part of this. And I know there's a number of other things that you want to make sure you have done first, but in regards to like making sure that you have a certain amount of traffic or have been blogging for a certain period of time before you're ready, I don't think so. It's just a matter of making sure you have your blogging foundation things down first. So maybe I should make that clearer in my course if that's one of your questions, because it must not be that clear. But it's a really good question because I get that a lot. Actually, people think, well, I can't ask subscribers for, or I can't ask sponsors to pay me for a blog post when I only get like 2,000 followers a month. I'm like, why not? I was probably getting around, I don't know, 2,000 follower or subscribe or page views a month when I got my first sponsor post. So, and if you don't know what to charge based on your traffic and things like that, just use the calculator in the course, because that is probably one of the best tools out of the whole freaking course. If you haven't gotten to it yet, it's a pricing calculator, and it pretty much lets you put in all your data for your website and tells you exactly how much you should charge for whatever. And I think I have it set up too where it's like, if you want to do a blog post, if you want to do a series of blog posts, if they want to do an email sponsorship. I don't think I have anything for video, which I should probably add. I should probably add something for video there as well if they are interested in doing a video sponsorship with you. But good question. Very good question. So back to my topic. I know I talked a little bit about some of the things for January. I just did a recap already. If I'm thinking through other things to do for January, I would say make sure you have once you have your goals completed and you write down what those tasks are for each of those goals. One part that I think is super, super important, and I have to say this to literally every blogger I've talked to, because a lot of bloggers look at their blog like, oh, this is just a little something I'm keeping to myself. I don't want to tell anyone about my blog yet until it turns into something. And the reality is, if you don't take your blog seriously, no one else will. So when I put my goals together and I make a blog schedule for myself, meaning, if you work full time, for example, you may have certain days of the week that are dedicated to your blog, or you may have a certain time during the day, whether it's just a couple of hours here or there, or you may have a few hours during the weekend. That needs to be on your calendar and a priority. And if it's on your calendar and a priority, it needs to be shared with your family. So that means having a conversation with your partner, with your children, and saying, hey, this is mama's blog time. You need to know that during this time when I'm working on my blog, I need this time to myself. Mama can't help with this or that. And it's taken seriously. I have a toddler and I have a spouse, and they know that during this time every month, I'm unavailable because I am here with y'all and talking about blogging. And it's not something that I keep to myself. Anyone who knows me knows that I have a blog and I have a full-time job, and it's not something I really hide. I put my blog in my resume, my blog on my LinkedIn profile, and I have a lot of success. I have a lot of successful things in my life to thank because of my blog, but skills that I've learned from it, some monetary value from it as well. And then just like some of the opportunities that my blog has granted me over the years, like being able to travel to certain places and get some cool things sent to me. So yeah, it's something that I share proudly. And even if your blog isn't successful or like totally together or whatever, it's not something to keep secret for the people around you. They need to know that it's a priority for you so that they can give you that space and that support you need for your blog to be successful. And then I've had some really good, I have had friends come to me and come up with some really good suggestions on things I can do for my blog, like good interview opportunities, or like, oh, maybe you should try doing movie reviews or try this. Not all advice is great, depending on whatever you're blogging about, but there is a benefit to sharing your blog with the people around you. I know it's scary, but it's important. It's very important. All right. So that would be my other tip for things to do for January after you get your whole blog plan together, you went through your KPIs from last year. The only other thing I would say, I'm trying to think through what else I would do for January, is making sure you have a schedule, a nice schedule for yourself. I know I talked about that and sharing it with your friends and family, but having a schedule that you stick to. So whatever you use as a regular schedule, it could be your work calendar or it could be your personal calendar. I know for my family, we have just a whiteboard calendar on the wall in the kitchen where we write out the month and here's the things that are happening this month. I typically add things there, like all my blog time where I'm not available, I put that on the calendar. And then for me, for my personal calendar, I have a day, like a regular list of things to do. The way I break down my blog schedule is I go week by week. So for example, week 1 of a month is dedicated to content. So I'm drafting content, I'm outlining content, editing content, reviewing content written by writers, writing content. That first week of the month, that's all I'm doing. And then week 2 is dedicated to finances. So I'm thinking through pitching sponsored posts. I'm writing and researching for affiliate content, just different things like that. And then I have a week where I'm focused more on just overall business growth. And that's looking through my data. That's looking through things that need to change. For example, one big thing I'm going through right now is moving my course from one platform to another. It's a pain, but it is necessary. It's a better platform. And just things like that. Not really something that you can like account for, but you have just random work that doesn't pertain to income or content creation for blogging. I may spend this time working on, I don't know, just looking through my tools and assessing what's working, what's not, what tools should I get rid of. Just thinking about my blog from a bigger standpoint or higher view, and doing that once a month. So I do that for a week. And then I have another week where it's just finance stuff as well. So again, following up on the pitches I did for sponsored posts, finishing up affiliate articles if I haven't finished them, or writing different affiliate content. Something else I do, I'm on Mediavine, so I'll look through some of my content that has high CPMs, and CPM is like cost per million. So the way Mediavine works, and a lot of advertising places do this too, is the way you get paid is I have an article and they say, okay, for this article, for every 1,000 people who come to this article, we'll pay you $5. And then for this article, for every 1,000 people who come to this article, we'll pay you $100. So what I do is I go through those top ones that have a high CPM, the ones they say I'll pay you $100, and I go and see if I can optimize those for SEO, so that I get more traffic to it and then more income. So that's something else that I would do in the finance week, or one of the finance weeks of my schedule. I'm trying to think what else I do. Pitching brands for sponsors. Oh, I mean, for my courses, I'll do different things there too. Maybe answering questions that come in about the courses. I'll also spend some time for the courses, just reviewing what's there, if there's any improvements that can be made overall. So yeah, just a lot of things, a lot of things that can be done with your blog. And that's just how I do my schedule now. There was a period of time where I had a certain day of the week where I would spend, like, Mondays is content, Tuesdays is finance, Wednesdays is tech and just bigger picture things. For Thursdays is like brainstorming ideas. There's no wrong way to do this. It's just, what works for your schedule. I don't work on my blog every day now because I have a toddler and a full-time job, but I do dedicate several hours a week to my blog. So on the days that I blog hard. So just figure out a schedule that works for you and try to be realistic about it. And that's something that my blogging besties tell me is my biggest issue when it comes to my blogging business is I take on way too much. I'll say, I'm going to take over the world this year. And they're like, no, Jasmine, take it down a notch. What are you actually going to do? How many hours you got in a day? So I really have to break down my day that way and say, when is my availability to do some blog stuff? And that's how I do it. But it changes. There's a season for everything, right? And depending on where you are, the season in your life, your schedule may look very different than mine. But really spend some time thinking through what's realistic, and what's not just what's going to get you to the results that you want to get to. Obviously, the more time you put into your blog, doing the right things, the faster it's going to grow and hit those goals for you. But we don't all have the same amount of time. Yay! How to review said, good info on how you schedule. Good. I'm glad that it's helpful. It's different for everyone. When I talk to my blogging besties, they are completely different and how they schedule compared to me. So yeah, just think it through and see what works well for you. So I think that's it. Those are all the tips I have when it comes to having a good blog schedule, or just planning for January in general. So I do another recap of what I covered today. I talked about you don't have to have it all figured out in January. If it takes a little longer than that, that's fine. I'm probably going to continue planning all through February and maybe a little bit into March before I'm ready to start executing on some of my new things for the new year. The other thing I talked about is your taxes. So if you hired anyone in 2023, not on Fiverr, not on Upwork, and paid them more than $600, you have to file a 1099 by today. And you can do that online. I share the link to the website where I do my 1099s, which is here. Boom, 1099 online, super affordable if you only had one or two people. And again, if you pay them less than $600, you don't have to worry about doing this. So that's the second thing you have to do in January. The third thing I will say that you want to focus on is your KPIs. So looking through your key performance indicators or metrics for your website. Some of the metrics I look at I look at growth for my social media accounts. How many subscribers did I have? How many click-throughs did I have? How much content did I share in a given month? What type of content got the most traffic or the most engagement? What kind of traffic led to me getting more email subscribers or more traffic to my website? What social media platforms are driving the most traffic to my site? For email, some things I look at is email subscribers, obviously, where those email subscribers are coming from, what my open rates are for any newsletters I'm sending out, how was my click-through rate, what type of content are people clicking through on in my emails. So that's another one. And then for my website, I look at data such as page views, unique views, what type of content, what's my top content on my website, what type of content is getting the most traction and click-throughs. Trying to think of what else. You can't see this data on Google Analytics, but I do use a tool called Affiliate. And Affiliate is great if you've never heard of it. They're just another tracking resource for specifically affiliates. So it can give you an idea of how much money you actually made on all the various affiliate accounts, which before I had this tool was a pain in the ass to do every single month. Logging into I don't know, 10 to 15 different platforms that I bring in affiliate income for and figuring out how much money I made with each one. So I use Affiliate. And what's great about Affiliate, and the reason I'm bringing it up right now, because I know it's related to tracking, but what's great about Affiliate is they have a section on their tool that allows you to look at each piece of content that you have on your site. And you can look at where people are clicking the most in your articles. So this is great if you have affiliate articles on your website and you want to know what are people clicking on to bring in the most income for your blog. This is a great tool for that. And you can make adjustments to your content based on what people are clicking on. So I know I already talked through tracking and things, but I didn't go through the exact KPIs that I look at. But this is a great tool for that. So one second, I'm going to give you an idea of what this looks like for Affiliate because it's a cool tool. Hold on a second. I'm going to pull up a good one for you. One that has some good data. I think this is one. There's a heat map. One second. I'm not seeing any heat maps for some of my content here. Okay. So let me share my screen so you can see it. Share my screen. Okay. So hopefully you can see my screen, but this is Affiliate, and this is an example of the heat map. So what I did was I clicked on content and heat map for this particular article, my Lumen Metabolism Tracker review article on Miss Millennium Magazine. So it shows me the article, and it's just like you're reading it, right? And if I have affiliate links on this, so you see I have a few that are highlighted here, it'll show me where people are clicking. So on this one, I can click it and see this portion right here on this article has led to 22 clicks and 8.5% click-through rate just on this little piece here. For whatever reason, people see this and they click through and it brings in income. And what's cool about it, it looks like that's one of the only places they're clicking. But what's cool is I can sort this by clicks, which is what it is right now. I can say which clicks have led to the most income for me. Let me see, by earnings per click, I can do that as well. And then if I wanted to see the performance on this article for each of the links, I can see which ones are being clicked the most. So there's one link here that has 38% visibility and has 24 clicks. And I'm looking at the last 30 days, but if I wanted to move it to like the last 90 days for this article, then I can see a little bit more visibility here into what links are being clicked the most. And if I want to go a little bit longer than that, I can see this too. So it's some good information. And then of course, like on the content section of this, I can see which articles, and this is for both of my blogs, by the way, which articles are getting the most page views and clicks. And you notice how I did this for the last 365 days. I can also do it for year to date or month to date. So I could do it for last year, which is probably what I would do if I'm looking at my data to see what articles brought the most traffic for me. And this is just a really good way to see what performed well, what didn't. Right now it's sorting by clicks in the actual affiliates on my articles, but if I wanted to see which articles brought on the most page views, I can see, of course, my blog, Miss Millennium Magazine, is leading the charge. It's a bigger blog, it's an older blog, but I have some blog posts for my other blog as well, even though it's a little bit newer, that's holding its own as well. So yeah, I just figured I'd share that with you guys. Affiliate, it's another really, really good tool that can help you with reviewing your content and your income and making sure that you're making good decisions on your blog. How to reviews is Affiliate free? No, it is not. It's actually about like $100 a month for Affiliate. I think it's like $99. But if you're curious about it, you can do a free trial with them. And I don't think they take your credit card either if you want to do a free trial. It takes a little bit to set it up, but I think it's a really good tool. And if you need more time because you haven't set things up properly or haven't had a chance to really explore, you can ask them to extend your free trial. I think I ended up doing a free trial with them for like a full month. So yeah, definitely check it out. I think it's a really good tool if your goal is to bring in more income with affiliates on your blog. You can't grow what you can't measure. And right now, tracking affiliates is very difficult if you're using multiple platforms like Commission Junction and Link Share and ShareASale and Reward Style, and just having to log into each of those it can be tedious to the point where I wasn't doing a good job of actually going and finding that information. So since I've had the tool, I've had a lot more clarity into how much money did I make this month with affiliates. It's so much easier to tell just going into this platform. So anyway, I did a recap. I talked about data and analysis. That part is really important for the year, for how you did last year and what to repeat and what not to do anymore for your blog. And then I also talked about making sure you're setting goals for yourself for the year. I broke down how I do my goals for the year, sharing those goals and with your friends and family so that they know, like, hey, here's my priority for the year, and this is what I'm going to be working on my blog, just so you know. It's a priority for me, and it should be a priority for you too. And then lastly, putting together your schedule. You want to put a blog schedule together that makes sense so that it works for you and your schedule and your family, and make sure you stick to it, because I said this probably on every single Q&A I've been on, but the most important thing you can do for your blog is be consistent. So whether that is publishing a blog post every Monday or, twice a month or whatever, being consistent is the most important thing for making sure that your blog develops and that it grows and that people take you seriously with blogging. So that was a lot. That was a lot of information. If you guys have any more questions for me, feel free to post them in the comments here. I'm always checking these videos and getting you guys answers along the way. And I haven't scheduled them yet, but I'm going to schedule out my Q&As for next month and the months after that. I'm going to continue to do this because I think it's a really good way for me to just talk through blogging and answer any questions that you guys may have. But other than that, I guess I will see you guys in February. I'll see you the last Wednesday of February. All right, I will see you guys then. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye.